edited films where you would just sit there, not saying anything.
Neil Young really loved that line. Even when I talked to him in recent years, he will say, "Hey Jim," you know, often the evil stench of the white man precedes him.
Just to stick with this film for a moment and its kind of confluence of styles, you have this real ability to switch genres and to make them your own. Obviously, you're such a cinephile. You've watched so many films. Here we have the Western, but it's not quite, you know, and you have a bit of the early cinema mixture. It's been called an acid Western. Can you talk about cross-pollination of genres?
Well, Sam Peckinpah said something about Westerns being a kind of frame, and if you had the frame, within it you could kind of do whatever you wanted. And I like genres very much, but I'm not very good at staying too true to them. So I like to kind of subvert them a bit. And I do think of it, even though black and white, I think of it as a kind of psychedelic Western in a way, because it's literally a trip, you know, that they take, and it's a film about life and death being cyclical in a way, and a lot about nature and about history. There's a lot of layers in it. What was the question?
Your mixing of genres.
Yeah, so I try certain things. You know, I love, for me, crime films and crime fiction are something I've also loved since I was a teenager, both in books and films. So I've tried, and I love Japanese cinema, so like samurai films and hitman films, and so I've kind of mixed these things together here and there. And again, I think it comes too from this thing where the surrealists were not hierarchical about what's more important, what's high art, what's low art. So I've always been very open to as kind of a receptor of genres.
And I think the surrealists were also really open to disorientation, right? And
well, they were very interested in disorientation and reordering of information, for sure.
And so on that note, there's a sense of the odyssey, the journey. And I know you have a love of travel also, and in ways that you pick up details. How would you say that travel kind of inspires you?
Oh boy, I love being in places where I love being disoriented. I used to love, my favorite thing when I was younger was to go to somewhere I'd never been before, leave wherever I was staying and take no map with me and just try to get lost and then see if I could find my way back. And some of these adventures didn't work out so well, especially in Tokyo where I couldn't read anything. But I love that kind of disorientation, and I love different cities and cultures. And to me, the most beautiful thing about life on Earth is diversity of things. And in nature, there is such a diversity. Like, I'm an amateur mycologist. There are 26,000 types of fungi or mushrooms on the planet, right? So I don't understand why we have to put categories into everything instead of the endless beauty of variation. For example, now people's sexuality can be put in certain categories, L, B, G, T, you know. That's fine, but in a way, as many people as there may be that many kind of senses of your own gender, you know, or how you feel or perceive yourself. So the idea of categorizing things seems so against the beauty of nature, even to me. So I just love variations. I love variations in all forms of art. I think that, for example, Bach, his music is so incredible because he had a lot of, this is my theory, Bach had a lot of kids, like 12 kids or something, right? And he had to feed them. And he was often the organist in a certain church, or he'd have to compose new music. So I think he was like damn, I can't come up with new stuff all the time, so I'll just start varying things. And he just made the most beautiful music by variation. But variation in all art is just kind of the most beautiful thing to me.
Which it also confronts the idea of the myth of originality, right? When you reorder things and all the variable configurations that you can have.
Yeah, I think originality is completely overrated. You could give everyone in this room who could make a film the exact same script, but they would all make a totally different film, you know, because they would just do it differently. And it's true, there's kind of a limited number of stories to tell in a way, but there's an unlimited number of ways to tell them. So that's always interesting to me.
I thought most about repetition, cubism in Limits of Control, which is kind of a crime thriller with the main drama taken out, and it's these repetitions built formally into the film.
Yeah, at the time I said I'm going to make an action film with all the action removed. So I really like the things that are not, I don't know how to say it, I'm attracted to the things that are not the expected drama. So for example, I made a film called Night on Earth that involves 5 taxi rides. And normally in a story, someone gets in the taxi, then you cut and they get out of the taxi. It's just a way to get them between things. So I wanted to make a film only about these things between, or another film we made made up of a lot of little elements, coffee and cigarettes. It's people just hanging out and taking a break from the important parts of their day. And so the whole film is about those things. So I'm very interested in sort of the things in between what are expected. And I find that is very important in music. The notes, the things you don't play are as important or more so than what you do play. I love poetry too because of the spaces, the ability to abstract language. I find very beautiful. And even you find, like the poems of Apollinaire, he used the page almost as an image with the words also. So he was accentuating the idea of the spaces between the words.
And does that affect your script writing or more your visualization?
Gee, I don't know. I don't really analyze how it affects what. I don't know how to answer. Yeah, I try not to analyze things.
Yeah.
But interesting thing, I always say that I'm intuitive and I'm not analytical, which is true. But I recently met Nadia from Pussy Riot. She's Siberian, Russian. She's a badass, amazing person. I love her. And she said, you know, you're lucky you can say I'm intuitive. But if you're a woman and you say that, then they say, oh, of course, you're a woman, you don't analyze, your brain doesn't work that way. So I never thought of it that way until she kind of hit me in the face with, you know, well, you're a man, you can be intuitive and it's accepted. If I say that, I'm like, oh yes, you're a girl.
Women are sensitive, emotional.
So yeah, she schooled me a little bit there.
We do have a small clip of Limits of Control. We might as well show it because we also have Tilda in it, who you've worked with a number of times. And I heard Tilda speak recently, and she said something that's also, I mean, she adores you and working with you, but she said something that's also really comforting about working with you is that you work with collaborators time and time again, that there's such a family feel in making things together.
Yeah, when we're filming, I think we're like sort of pirates on a ship, or we're a motorcycle gang, or, you know, we're something outside of the world. We're kind of we're doing our own thing in our way, and so the rest of the rules of the world don't apply to us for this period, which I always try to engender that thing. And also, I don't like hierarchies on a film set. When you're shooting, you have specific jobs, and the lighting person does not comment on the actor's performance, etc. But when we break and we're eating and whatever, we're all together and we are all equal. And even as we shoot, we are all equal in value. So if I have a young person that's an assistant that's out stopping the cars somewhere while we roll, they are as important as the director of photography because they're part of this moment we are going to capture. So I give equal respect to all of them. I don't like people that act like their job is more important than others because we're all part of a tribe, we're doing something together. So.